Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Todd Fernandez with Climate Crisis Policy and the Earth Bill Network, and I'll be your host today. Thank you all for being here. We have a great lineup of experts today to talk to you about three big topics. First, on the Earth Bill, we have Francesco Arreaga, Policy Advisor with Representative Espaillat's office. Then at 12:30 on the big Oceans Climate Bill, we have Jean Flemma, Director of the Oceans Defense Initiative. Then at 1 p.m. here to rally us to push the Senate on the $550 billion in climate incentives, we have Felice Stadler, Associate VP for Political Affairs with the Environmental Defense Fund. In between, we'll squeeze in updates on action steps, the plastics campaign, and a great new UN Environment Assembly resolution for a plastics treaty, and the big march in DC on June 18th with the Poor People's Campaign. Before we get started, we need to take a moment to acknowledge the horrific attack in Texas. Really, there are no words for it. So I was thinking that the common theme seems to be that American society and the planet are spiraling in a bad direction. And it seems that corporate domination of our government and policy is one of the root problems. From pollution to guns, wealth, healthcare, you name it. So we must rise to reclaim and rebalance our society, to take control of our governmental policy to make it work for the general welfare. It's going to take all of our movements working together to achieve this almost impossible task. But the climate crisis just might be the unifying fear and call to action that could achieve this. We'll see. Unfortunately, I also need to start today by sharing the latest bad climate and pollution news, because it's so important to lift up these stories so we don't normalize them and become inured to the horrific facts. It's been announced that CO2 pollution levels will hit an all-time historic high at 420 parts per million as of April 2022. And it continues to rise. This means we are not winning this struggle. And it calls for new introspection as to what our plans and our collective human strategies are to solve the political obstacles. Meanwhile, a new report says 1 in 6 deaths worldwide are due to pollution, with 9 million deaths each year. This is more than war, terrorism, road injuries, malaria, drugs, and alcohol. So fundamentally, the crisis comes down to pollution. That's why the main message of the Earth Bill is to stop our pollution. We're intentionally calling it our pollution to connect us personally to the problem. So it goes from being abstract to more of a personal responsibility for the pollution we are generating each month when we pay our electric, car, and food bills. We're funding the pollution. This is part of the strategy to get broader public engagement by creating a sense of ownership and responsibility with the public to hopefully inspire action, because we need them to engage the elected officials. We need people power. So we're linking together the people, the pollution, and the policy solution, which is the Earth Bill. And then the Earth Bill really does the work of going green for us. It doesn't ask much of the public other than to engage their elected official. So it makes it easy for us as consumers, which is important because people don't like making personal change. And asking for that can be a non-starter. So it tackles the problem at the production level, telling the companies making these products, the utilities, car manufacturers, and food companies to stop the pollution at the source. It also engages those industries in the process, giving them a year to come up with a plan for the transition to 100% by 2030, working with key agencies to solve obstacles. It also provides grants and tax subsidies for the transition cost and tax penalties when deadlines are not met. And it's the deadlines that really drive the transition. This creates a guaranteed market that makes projects financeable to propel the private sector to build at scale and on schedule. If we're serious about stopping at 1.5 before tipping points arise, then this is the deadline. And that's what's different and ultimately vital about the Earth Bill. It sets a deadline to speed up what's already happening, to shift to cheaper, better, sustainable alternatives, which because of the economics and innovation is really inevitable. But it's not happening fast enough. We've really run out of time on pollution levels, Yet the status quo is still holding the politics hostage. So the 2030 deadline and industry mandates are key. These set the grounding paradigm that we, the people, have the right to decide our pollution policy and indeed the responsibility. And these mandates and deadlines are the magic of the bill that will propel us forward because they show that we are trying in earnest to save the future for our children as science requires. And even though time is running out, it still matters that we accomplish this goal as soon as possible, whenever possible, because it will always matter. As we blow past 1.5 and 2 or even higher, it will always matter where we stop. So our question will keep attention on the urgency and call the question with each election cycle and official until we elect a government ready and able to protect our world. Fortunately, the solutions and as quests and solutions go, the answer of stopping our greenhouse gas pollution is not optional. So we're fighting for something that's necessary and inevitable, which gives it great power as an organizing force. It's easy to sell because it's a true solution. Because the politics are very difficult, success will really depend on the people. And this is the hard part in every movement, to mobilize the public and to unify not only the climate movement, which will be no easy feat, but all of civil society, businesses, academia, artists, and beyond in a common course, a shared refrain: stop our pollution, pass the Earth Bill. We're starting this drumbeat, and it will continue and grow until it resonates in the hearts of those who resist, until we reach their deeper, truer nature, so it can emerge to protect Mother Earth and the general welfare as their primary duty. This is the quest we've begun, and it's gaining momentum. I've started going to events in New York City and talking about it, and people are saying yes, yes, yes. They get it quickly, which is a huge relief. They're eager for a solution that they can help with and understand. We have new influencers on board. Melly Garrett, a dancer and model friend of ours with over 250,000 followers, and the Living Installation duo is ready to take it to the streets. We have Adam McKay of Don't Look Up and earthday.org ready to promote once the bill is introduced. So now's the time to ask anyone you know with an audience on social media to come on board and join the Earth Bill influencer circle. As a final note, I want to thank all of you who worked so hard to get the Earth Bill to where it is today, poised to be filed, starting with the Off Fossil Fuels effort and Climate Action Mondays, the People's Green New Deal team and 350 NYC, and all involved with the Climate Crisis Policy Digest and the authors of all those underlying materials. Our electricity agriculture teams, the New York 13 Adopted District team, and the over 350 individual and 75 plus organizations now supporting the bill network spanning every region of the country. When we have a filing event soon, we'll name and thank you all more, but thank you again now. We stand on your hard work and passion. Now to the moment at hand. As you all know, the bill is being introduced by Representative Espaillat of New York 13. So I'm very, very happy today to welcome their lead on the Earth Bill, Francesco Arreaga, who is the policy advisor guiding it through the process, along with his colleague, Monica Garay, the legislative director, both of whom have been delightful to work with. Thank you, Francesco, for everything. It's been a real pleasure. The network and I are very grateful for your, Monica's, and Representative Espaillat's leadership on this. Welcome. Again, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Todd, I think we lost Francesco.
Oh.
Not here. Must have gone kicked off or something.
Oh, no. Well, let's see what happened there.
I'll let you know when he comes back.
Okay, let me know when he comes back. Hopefully it wasn't anything I said. So, as I say, in about 15 minutes, we have, let me just write Francesco, we have other guests coming, but so we'll cover some of the action steps. And we'll just proceed with the action agenda that we were going to cover in between the spot and in between the meeting, in between the presenters. So as everyone knows, we're in the endorsement seeking mode. There's about over I don't know how many now, 60 organizations that have signed on Representative Espaillat's form. And we have more on ours, and I'm not sure why some of the folks that have signed onto the network haven't signed on to Representative Espaillat's form. But if you could please be sure to do both of those, that would be wonderful. Then we, as I say, we're working on a big marketing outreach. All of the all the materials you need for group endorsements and publicity efforts are on the website under actions. We are also working now to talking to the marketing professionals, and we've made some progress there, and it's really tricky because both of the all the major marketing industry groups that we've spoken to have said that they're concerned with the conflicts with their other clients that this could present. So Francesco.
Yeah, he's back.
He's back. Oh, great. Oh, wonderful. Hi, Francesco. We're welcoming you back. That was a long introduction, but I'm glad you're here. And we're going to offer you the floor. Thank you for being here so much. We're happy to hear everything you have to say.
Thank you, Todd. And I'm sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties with my computer. It looks like my camera isn't working, but can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, good. Well, first off, I want to thank Todd for his leadership on this. I want to thank all of you for your leadership on environmental justice. My name is Francesco Arreaga. I work as a policy advisor for Congressman Espaillat, and we are very excited to soon be launching officially the Earth Bill. We've been in discussion with Todd, Climate Crisis Policy, different organizations, and as you may have seen during Earth Day, Congressman Espaillat released a press statement expressing how he was excited and looking forward to introducing the Earth Bill officially in the House. And so at the moment, we are in talks with the House Legislative Council, which is the office in the House of Representatives that helps draft bills. We've sent them over the latest version of the bill, and we are finalizing that process. And we hope to have a final version of the bill as soon as possible. And as Todd mentioned, the Earth Bill is very important because it deals with the three pillars of climate domestically: vehicles, electricity, and agriculture. I think agriculture is the component that has often been excluded from other bills and is unique to this bill. So we are quite excited, and especially at a moment when at the international level, food security is something that everyone is worried about with what's going on in the war in Ukraine, in Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine, and how that's affecting food prices and commodity prices across the world. So just want to express how grateful we are for all of your support. We are excited to be working on this project, and we certainly hope that it can be unveiled to the public in the very, very near future. So thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone. And please consider us a resource here at Team Espaillat.
Thank you, Francesco. Everyone's very excited and we're very grateful. And I just feel like we really have a wonderful team with you all. And it's just great. Francesco, do you want to share any, like when you first heard about it and how y'all decided that you thought this would be the right project for your office? Any insider secrets you want to share with us to let the team know what your thought process was?
Sure. Well, I know that the congressman has for a long time now been an active proponent of international climate programs. So for example, he on the Appropriations Committee advocates for the Green Climate Fund and for other international programs that help developing economies meet the climate crisis head on, and especially communities that are on the front lines and often forgotten during these conversations. So he has been a proponent of addressing climate change at the international level. And so when we heard about this proposal for addressing climate change here in the United States domestically, I know that the congressman was very interested in it. Our team was also very interested in this policy proposal because it, as Todd mentioned earlier, it does address many of the issues that are causing greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to the climate crisis. So we want to not only be leaders abroad, but we want to be leaders at home. And so that is what the Earth Bill does. And I can't think of a better way to name it, right? The Earth Bill, because it's about protecting the planet. It's about protecting our communities and ensuring that we meet this crisis head on with all the energy that it must have. So that's a little bit of background on that.
Excellent, excellent. And just a couple words about Representative Espaillat's background. And he's the third-time congressperson. He's the first one elected that was originally from the Dominican Republic. You want to just share a little bit about that and his district, and just a little more background on Representative Espaillat.
Sure. Well, I will say that Congressman Espaillat is one of the kindest and down-to-earth individuals in Congress. He deeply cares about his community. He represents New York 13, the Bronx, Harlem, many communities that are honestly on the front lines of many environmental justice issues. I know that New York 13 sadly has very high asthma rates, and climate change is a part of that. And so the congressman deeply cares about the lived experiences of the community, and especially communities of color, marginalized communities that have often been left behind. And so when we think about the climate crisis, we do have to prioritize those communities, just like the administration is doing with the Justice 40 initiative and other initiatives. And like you said, Todd, Congressman Espaillat, he is originally from the Dominican Republic. He moved to the United States as a child. He has a very inspirational life journey, and now he's been serving the people of New York for a long time at the state government level, and now he's now here in Congress and serving at the federal level, and he is committed to advancing social justice, environmental justice, economic justice, and we're very grateful to you and everyone on the call for everything you all do to advance these causes at the grassroots level and to encourage other members of Congress to also prioritize these issues.
Well, thank you so much. Francesco always thanks me at the end of the call for everything we're doing, and I just want to thank him. And so we just have a mutual thanking of each other all the time. And Francesco, I haven't interfaced that much with congressional offices, but the way you make it feel like you're there to help the constituents and that you're really there for us is really special, and I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Todd. We try our best, and we're here to serve you all, serve the community, and make sure that your voices are being heard. I honestly wish that the legislative process were faster, because I do wish that the Earth Bill had been introduced during Earth Day as we had expected and hoped to, but Legislative Council and just the drafting process internally in the House takes quite some time, as I am learning to. So, but we're pushing, and we're continuing to work on it, and we definitely expect that this bill will be introduced soon, because it's an emergency, as has been said. It's something that needs to be addressed, and we need to continue the conversation. So thank you.
Great. Well, I appreciate your working on it, and I keep nudging you, and I hope I'm not upsetting with that nudging.
No.
What activists do, I think it's my job, but every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I should not bother him, but I want to bother you a little bit. Hope it's okay. And Francesco, if you could keep funneling me the groups that have signed on, because we're comparing that to our lists. And as I was saying, when you were off the call for a minute, we have, I haven't looked, around 60 or so groups that have signed on to Representative Espaillat's formal form. And then we have over 70 some. So there's a differential there. Some have signed one and not the other. We're trying to reconcile that. And so he keeps sending me the list from his office, and I keep emailing all of you. So if you see on the email that just went out, the list, I keep putting the list that's signed up to his form, because that's the official list now, so that you can see if your group's not on there to go ahead and sign up. And I know Fridays for the Future did that recently, and Earth Day has done that recently. And so they're continuing to add them as we go. And the next step will be, Francesco, once we see the final draft, you'll send out a dear colleague letter, right? And if you could just say 1 minute on that, the letter will come out, and then we will forward it around, and that will be the process through which you solicit the initial co-sponsors. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So once we have the bill finalized, ready to go from Legislative Council, we will do an Eat Your Colleague, where we basically circulate to other offices in the House details about the bill text itself. We let them know when we plan to introduce, and then we gather support here in the House internally. And we can also continue circulating Eat Your Colleagues once the bill has been introduced, to just continue gaining momentum. And of course, we will be posting materials on social media, getting the word out. Our comms team will be engaged in all of that, and hopefully we can attract attention and make sure that the public is aware of the efforts that are being made, so that we can continue these environmental justice initiatives.
Very exciting, very exciting. And so guys, everybody, once we have that first group of co-sponsors, then that's going to really help narrow our focus, right? So then we start looking at all the others who we think should be on there already and aren't, and we'll, that should be a little bit easier to get those, be more attention, a function of getting their attention probably. And then that narrows down the work ahead. And this is how you do it. You come up with a bill that's a solution, and you start going after vote one by one, and then that narrows the focus of the ones that we need. And then we double down and collectively work on those. And to me, that's the path forward. It's an uphill battle. We all know the House will be one kind of challenge, but the Senate obviously is going to be a different kind of challenge. So we're going to be focusing on Republican districts and going to talk to senators as well, as we look for a Senate sponsor. And all of this will just double down once we obviously have the bill filed. And it just gets much easier, because then you point people to a bill number, and there's a link to the bill online on the government's official website, and the conversation with the insiders, the experts and all of that just gets a lot easier. In the meantime, I just want to ask everybody to please reach out to folks with social media reach, and let's get them on board now, so that we have a lineup of people ready to repost and retweet once the filing event happens and Representative Espaillat's comms team announces it all. And like I say, we already have a decent echo chamber started with the producer of Don't Look Up, Adam McKay, and some others. But let's please add to that list now. That's what we can do in the meantime. We just have to forge ahead like everything's a green lit, because it is. And there's just a few minor hurdles, but none of them are really substantive, right, Francesco? It's just process at this point.
It is process. It is process, Todd. Sometimes Legislative Council makes some changes to the bill, and we just have to go back and make sure that those changes don't interfere with the purpose of the bill, of the original bill we introduced. So making sure that the final product is actually going to do what we said it would do, which is provide 100% renewable electricity, zero emission vehicles, and regenerative agriculture by 2030. That is the goal, and that is what the bill will do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Francesco. I think that's it, unless there's any other closing thoughts you'd like to share with everyone. we'll invite you back, of course, when we get ready to file, and we'll see all of that. And we're just very excited to run with this and can't wait to get started.
Thank you all. And apologies again for the technical difficulties with Zoom.
Oh, no worries. No worries. We're just grateful you're here, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You too. All right, great. So, well, that's wonderful. At least we got to hear directly from the office about everything that's going on. And I personally get anxious when things get delayed. We're almost a month overdue. So that would be a lot for any baby. And but I feel good about it all, but I'm waiting to exhale, as they say. All right, we'll touch base a little bit more after our next segment about next steps and everything. But I think pretty much everyone knows the drill. And we'll stay on the line after the call today to answer any questions for folks who are new, anything like that. So next up, I'm excited to welcome Jean Flemma, who's the director of Ocean Defense Initiative.
Ooh, I'm spotlighted.
And you're going to get spotlit. Oh, there you are. You're lucky we didn't bring the big lights. We have big lights too, but they're not reaching you at the moment.
I need one of those. I'm not very good at, the ring light and all that stuff. So we've been doing this for 2 years, but we still haven't figured it out.
I know. I sort of glow from the outside clouds, and I look like a weird color on these things during the day. All right, well, we're so glad to have you here. As you know a little bit, but everyone on the call, and there are a lot of new people joining as the network is growing. We have a climate bill package that we've been advocating for over a year now. And it's the foundation of our adopted district organizing model, because the idea is that we have to link arms among the activists across the various causes, because no one of us or segment of us is powerful enough to win these battles. So we're trying to join together. And that's what the bill package is all about. And we spent a lot of time diving in deeply into all the bills in that last year. And there are videos on our YouTube about all of that. And this is our first new big addition, the Oceans-Based Climate Solutions Act of 2021. I forget how we came across the bill, but we're excited to know about it. And today, Jean is going to take us in a deep dive to this rather massive document. I was skimming it again. I still have yet to get through it in one sitting.
I won't go too deep.
All right. Well, as deep as you'd like.
The ocean is very deep, and I will not go that deep.
Well, welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay. I do have a slide deck, which I will turn to in a minute, just to kind of help us. It is a big document. It's a big bill. And so I'll go through the highlights of it and sort of the important aspects of it from an ocean climate solutions perspective. But I wanted to just say first, I myself, as Todd mentioned, I run a project called the Ocean Defense Initiative, which focuses on, I'm going to get a little farther away from the camera. There we go. Which focuses on elevating champions in Congress, ocean champions in Congress, and then also elevating the voices of organizations like yourself and helping organizations, or excuse me, sort of building the capacity of organizations that want to engage on the issues like this that they care about, helping to provide background information and talking points and messaging for those opportunities when they arise. So, and as somebody who I used to work on Capitol Hill, I worked there for almost 25 years. I just want to say that I really appreciate the work that your group is doing, because I agree 100% that none of us on our own is going to get the job done, and bringing different talents and different interests together in this way is extremely valuable. And I worked for many members of Congress who saw the power of constituencies. So I just really, really appreciate your work. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen, and you'll probably see all the bazillion tabs that I have open at any one time. And then I will open up the slide deck, hopefully in a in the right way. Okay. All right, let me close this. I think we're good. Is it sharing yet or not? Can you see it? No, let me just make sure I'm sharing it. Here we go. There we go.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go.
Thank you. And then I need to, oh, now it's verifying Microsoft Outlook. Excuse me while we do this for a moment. Okay, so I just need to turn this into a speaker slideshow so you don't see all my notes. Unfortunately, I don't want to waste a lot of time turning this into a speaker slideshow because I don't remember how to do it and it will just waste a lot of our time. So I'm just going to use it this way. Hopefully you can see my notes and not be bored by it. But Todd asked me to give a little bit of context for the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act and why it is important to the larger issue of tackling climate change. And so I just wanted to give a little quick bit of background on the role the ocean plays in our life, but then also in terms of climate change and how that led to the development of this bill. So, okay. The ocean, as all of you probably know, is basically what sustains our life on Earth, and it provides the oxygen that we breathe. It is essential to our coastal economies, and it is a source of the seafood that we consume. It is a source of all things that we do. And it also, however, is integral to the climate and how we have so far survived on this planet in the face of climate change. Because the ocean itself has been absorbing the excess heat that we have generated over the years. And if not for the ocean, the planet would be much hotter now than it is. But the ocean has been absorbing that heat for us in a way that has moderated the increases in temperature. And there's probably, many of you may have listened to scientific discussions about this where scientists are much more articulate than I am. But I just like to say the ocean has absorbed more than 90% of the heat, and it has also absorbed significant amounts of the carbon dioxide and the carbon emissions that we've generated. And as a result, what's happening is it's making the ocean hotter. It's making the carbon that it has absorbed has made the ocean more acidic. And that it has also decreased the amount of oxygen that's available. So when you hear about fish kills and other things that are happening, it is the result of absorbing all this heat and all these emissions that have caused the ocean to become hotter, more acidic, and less oxygen. So obviously that we thank the ocean for what they have done for us, but we also now need to do something for the ocean. And the good news is we do know what to do, and scientists have been very clear in telling us what we need to do. We need to take ocean climate action. That's the category of activities that we refer to as ocean climate action. And they sort of fall into three broad categories, which is we need to reduce emissions. Obviously, that's what everybody here cares about. We need to protect the ocean's ability to store carbon. And then we also need to increase the resilience of the ocean and coastal ecosystems. And that is really what is the basis of the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act. I'm going to admit this person in the waiting room. I am doing all the things now. So I think, so that is really what drove the development of the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act, as we're talking about. And that bill was first introduced in 2020, and then it was reintroduced again in 2021 by Chairman Raul Grijalva, who is the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee. And I actually worked for Mr. Grijalva before I left Congress, and he's from Arizona. He's from Arizona, but he actually, or no, yes, he's from Arizona. But he is very committed to ocean issues, which is great because a lot of times in Congress, you don't find members focused on issues that are outside of their district, so to speak. And obviously Arizona does not have a ocean coast. So we appreciate the fact that for us in this space, he has been an ocean champion. So going back to these three categories here of reducing emissions, the first sort of category of ocean-based climate solutions is the ocean can help us transition to a clean energy economy with ocean-based renewable energy and other things. And so what the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act does is several things that lend itself to this, which is first, it prohibits new oil and gas leasing in all areas of the outer continental shelf. It sets a goal, a national goal for offshore wind energy production of 30 gigawatts by 2030. And in fact, the Biden administration has now also established that goal of 20 gigawatts or 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030. It requires shipping vessels that are calling on US ports to measure and report their CO2 emissions. An interesting thing about the shipping industry, the worldwide shipping industry, which we've heard a lot about that in recent months with respect to supply chain challenges, but also to the amount of shipping that has been going on during the pandemic, where people were ordering everything online and the shipping, there was just more and more shipping going on. The shipping industry as a whole, the global shipping industry, is, if it were a country, it would be, I think, the 5th largest emitter of emissions on the planet. And so there is a significant need to reduce shipping emissions as part of our overall goal of reducing emissions by 50% by, I think, 2030 is the goal the president has set, and to keep our warming at 1.5 or lower. There is a huge need to reduce shipping emissions, and it is an international challenge and one that will have to be dealt with globally. It cannot be dealt with by any one country, and it will need to be a partnership between countries and the industry. And that is something that our government and Secretary Kerry, or Special Envoy Kerry, is now announced his work and commitment to, and that is something that I just wanted to flag. And so the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act actually takes that first step by requiring vessels to measure and report their emissions, because we can't benchmark and start reducing emissions until we understand how much is actually being generated by individual vessels and fleets. Another area that the bill really focuses on is the blue carbon benefits that our ocean and coasts provide. And salt marshes and seagrass are, as many of you may know, are carbon storage powerhouses. And so the bill, to that end, the bill has provisions that would support mapping coastal habitats, providing federal funding to protect those habitats, but also to restore carbon storage, blue carbon habitats, as they're called. And it also includes a grant program to restore and protect coastal wetlands, which are huge carbon storage areas. Another area that I mentioned briefly was the fact that ocean climate benefits will be enhanced if we increase our ocean's resiliency and the health of the ocean ecosystems. And one area that can be done is in marine protected areas and keeping areas of the ocean healthy so that ecosystems can thrive there and fisheries can thrive there, and they provide almost a refuge from climate change. And so to that end, the bill lends some effort toward designating new marine sanctuaries in the United States, also increasing protections for deep sea coral habitats. Corals are incredibly important ecosystem, sort of a building block of ocean ecosystems. They also are important buffers for coastal communities to protect them from storms during which, as many people know, storms, coastal storms and ocean storms are increasing with climate change. So there's a lot of benefits in the bill to protecting coastal habitats and marine ecosystems, but also they provide a lot of co-benefits beyond just the health of the ocean that is gained from that. As I mentioned, healthy coastal habitats, coastal restoration, in addition to storing blue carbon, coastal habitats, healthy coastal habitats also protect coastal communities from increased flooding, rising seas, storms, as I mentioned. So it's not just coral reefs, it's wetlands, seagrass beds, all of those things can help buffer the impacts of storms. So the bill, the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act would authorize $10 billion to support coastal restoration projects around the United States. And there was a survey done of coastal states, and the states themselves identified at least $6 billion worth of projects that they had ready to go right now that could provide that coastal habitat restoration support that we're looking for. So the bill authorizes that. You would still need to get appropriations down the road, but it provides the authorization. There's an effort underway to get an appropriation for that money in the bill formerly known as Build Back Better. It obviously has a different name now, and we don't know what will happen with that legislation, but that provision is being worked on in that bill as well. And then the bill has some provisions related to sustainable fisheries and promoting sustainable seafood in the United States. The US has a very rigorous fisheries management system that we employ to manage our ocean-based fisheries, but the bill would add some extra provisions in that regard. And then finally, there's a lot in here about enhancing federal research and monitoring and ocean observation and addressing harmful algal blooms, which if you are from Florida, you are probably very familiar with them. Or if you live on the West Coast, you may be familiar with the thing we lovingly call the blob sort that impacts our crab fishery, amongst other things. So the bill has some money for science and research to help address those challenges. That's a lot, obviously, and I went through it very quickly. I do have a link for some other tools that provide background on the bill. If that would be useful, Todd, I can share those with you that you can share with the group that dives much deeper into sort of the weeds of what the bill does. And I would be happy to share that link, those links with you for you to share out with the group.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, please do. And you're welcome to put it in the chat too. I was also looking at the bill. I noticed it had an actual mandate about black carbon. By 2025, a reduction in black carbon as part of the Arctic Council. So that was a very interesting model for a mandate to reduce carbon. Then also a requirement that the Senate ratify the law of the sea. And we had included in the Earth Bill originally a provision requiring the Department of State to engage in international treaty to come up with a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. But so it was just good to see a provision in a bill mandating the Senate ratify international treaties.
You know, I've been working on ocean issues for more than 30 years. And as long as I've been doing that, I first started working in Congress in 1990. And as long as I've been doing that, we've been talking about ratifying the law of the sea. So it's sort of interesting to think about whether or not that may finally happen. I don't know if it will, but obviously all of these issues are going to need to be addressed in an international context.
The other provision I would highlight, just because of its popular appeal, is the protection of large whales and the provisions in there. So when I'm talking about it, I'm like, and we're going to protect the whales and their habitat and keep them safe from all the noise and the underwater development that's being contemplated.
Yeah, I'm going to find the link and put it in the chat for the toolkit that has like all the background on this bill. This is a toolkit that my project, Ocean Defense Initiative, put together, and I will share it in the link here. Hopefully this will work. Oh, no, that's not it. Hold on, I'll do it in a second. But I did see, somebody here said that the bill acknowledges nature-based solutions. That really is one of the primary focuses of the bill is the nature-based aspect of sort of what the ocean, not only can the ocean, provide in terms of if we reduce offshore drilling, it's not a nature-based solution, but it is an ocean-based solution. But in addition, all these other sort of nature-focused aspects of coastal restoration and blue carbon habitat. It's funny, when I first started working on these issues, there we go. This should be the link for the toolkit for the bill that we put together when it was introduced last year. And it would have a section by section description of the bill, some graphics, some other things that we did at the time, but I think it could be useful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of some other thought. Forget where you were going with it. Well, this is all excellent. Can you talk just a little bit about, I forget how many sponsors it has. It has, a decent number of sponsors. What is the, we're always curious, what's the ground game for going after sponsors? Which, we work with Oceana and other contexts on the plastics bill, and Oceanic, which is a different bill group. But who would you say is like sort of championing the co-sponsor hunt?
So I think at this point, what folks are, instead of being focused on co-sponsors, they're really focused on why the provisions of the bill are important. So when they go and talk about climate change and the issues that your group is talking about, they include these as important steps that Congress needs to take to address climate change. So I think there certainly wouldn't be any, it would always be valuable to add more co-sponsors, but the real focus is on when you're talking about the issues that you care about and you care about seeing Congress act upon. I'll answer that question that Monica just put in the chat in a second. But when you are going and talking to your members and your decision makers, highlighting things like coastal restoration and why it's important, or highlighting blue carbon protection and why it's important, that is probably more valuable than focusing on co-sponsors. Because, and I'll tell you why, many of these provisions, because it's a very big bill, as you noted, Todd, many of these provisions will be potentially included in other pieces of legislation that are moving. So it could be that there's a package that moves on, as I mentioned, the bill formerly known as Build Back Better has many of these provisions, or there is a legislation being considered in Congress right now called the Competes Act, which theoretically has to do with trade with China, but also includes a lot of ocean climate provisions. So as you probably know, there's always so many things in Congress happening, it's hard to keep track. So talking about the things you care about and emphasizing those things, as opposed to we need this specific bill, and instead focusing on we need these types of provisions to be passed in legislation, regardless of what vehicle you use. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think it's important to note.
We do both that. Before the Earth Bill it's not yet a bill, so we would argue that the provisions be included in any moving vehicles.
Right,
We get
exactly.
that same idea. We just like the legislative goal idea because it gives us something concrete that people in district constituents can organize, and it's asked that we can hold
Yes.
somebody account to. This general include everything somewhere.
No, I totally get it. I'm not saying don't do that.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
saying there's not as much focus on the co-sponsor drive. It's more a focus on these provisions, why we care about them, and we want you to support these provisions. So if asking them to co-sponsor is the way to do it, great. That's up to you how you want to do it.
All right, beautiful. And the main thing is that we want to coordinate and collaborate as much as we can with any advocacy organization that's running a ground game, like we do on the Plastics Bill, Plastics Coalition. So
Sure.
to the extent you can ever connect us to those folks, that's what we're trying to do, is weave everyone together.
Sure. So I can just tell you that, for instance, my project, and somebody noted in the chat, and I still haven't answered Monica's question, but somebody noted in the chat that they liked the individualized thank you graphics that we created. One of the things that we do, as I mentioned, is elevate ocean champions. And so we try to do that by creating social graphics to say thank you, because believe it or not, thanking members for doing the thing you asked them to do is actually very useful. And members, that's another way of reinforcing the fact that you care about what they're doing. So that is, but my point was, we often will send out toolkits related to these types of packages. And I'm happy to, Todd, to have you on that list for those toolkits. And then you can decide what you want to share and not share with the group when it makes sense. I'm happy to do that as a way to give you another opportunity or another point for engagement.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And then back to Monica's question about no Republican co-sponsors. I think I would attribute that to the broader, I want to say this in a diplomatic way. There is a broad Congress, Republicans in Congress are not interested in addressing climate change legislatively. And so there's a sort of a broad, well, most Republicans are not. And so there is a broad, they just won't sign on to bills that are focused on climate change as the goal. That's just the way it is. And frankly, that's a problem for many reasons, but I don't want to go farther because I might go too far.
That's okay. We understand entirely. And that's why we're going to be having a very intense focus on Republican districts. We've identified about 20 Republican districts with horrible, wild, storm problems.
Right.
And then we're going to zero in on a handful of Republican senators as well. It's the final frontier. And unless we crack that frontier, we're really just going to spin on our wheels.
And another area where I think you could focus on is Republican districts where their coastal flooding has really ramped up, because that's only going to get worse, not better.
We did coastal storms, fires,
great.
Hurricane, major events.
Yeah,
so it's a good list, and you would think, well, they're at least fertile ground for organizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might take us to break the barricade that they have. That's enforced through the Republican Party dynamics. They don't deal well with stragglers. They deal well with them, I should say. They keep them very much in line with all sorts of financial parameters and threats. So it's not going to be easy. We're going to have to find someone who's willing to break ranks at all costs, because it will probably cost them their jobs.
And there have been in the past, because there are there are members who recognize the threats that we face, but it is sort of that larger party politics that it becomes, and the ones that I think do recognize it are the ones that a lot of them are the ones that are leaving Congress.
We got to convince some of them to stay and fight the good fight. All right, Jean. Well, this is an excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to be aligned on this. And
thank you.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would be happy to, that toolkit shall have a lot of the background information, but for the future, Todd, I will put you on that list for things that we send out, and you can decide what does or does what is or is not useful for your team and your organizing.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's very nice to see everybody, and thank you very much for all your hard work. My boss, George Miller from California, used to say, if I hear from 10 people about something, it's a movement. So honestly, it makes a difference. It really does.
Well, you couldn't have queued up things better for our next conversation with Felice about pushing the Senate on the $550 billion, which sounds like it includes some very helpful ocean provisions as well. So I'm not sure if that's in the $555 billion calculation, but nevertheless, we want to get that over the finish line, and that's what we're going to be talking about next. Thank you, Jean, so much for being here, and we'll continue this.
Yeah, I will say, I'll just note there are several ocean climate provisions in that $555 billion. So thank you. And I can actually, Todd, I'll send you the list of the ocean provisions that are in that package, so you have it.
Can you tick some of those off the top of your head, or is that?
Well, the the $6 billion for coastal restoration is in there. And then there's money for decarbonizing and cutting emissions at ports, which, as I mentioned, the shipping and ports emissions are a significant problem. And cutting emissions at ports is important, not just for climate change, but also for local communities who tend to be communities of color and frontline communities who have been the most disadvantaged and hardest impacted by the emissions and air pollution at ports. So that is another provision that is in that 550 billion. I think I might have said million, 550 billion. So, and I'll send you the full list of the ocean provisions that are in there.
All right, well, we're being asked by different places to make another round of meetings and requests for meetings to the Senate offices. And we've sort of been sitting in a waiting, it feels like, mode lately after the last year where we were on it.
Understood.
And I'm trying to get ourselves motivated and myself motivated to motivate others. So the list of specifics of what's in there will be very helpful.
Yeah, I'll send you, we have a whole toolkit for that. I'll send it to you.
All right, yay, more
Okay.
toolkits.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's summer. It's all in one place.
No, I know, I'm just teasing. We have them too. We need them. All
Okay,
right.
thank you,
for
everybody.
everything. Pleasure meeting you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. So as you know, we have a full lineup and Felice is coming in a minute. She usually shows up right on time or a few minutes after. So I'm going to dart back to our issues that we want to discuss. One thing is, of course, to obviously follow us on Twitter. Please do that because we're going to stay up to speed. Here's Twitter. And the thing, oh, it didn't connect, never mind. And Instagram. And then the next question we have really is about organizing well, there's a couple things. Maybe before Elise gets here, I'll talk first about the plastics update. And the Plastics Coalition is one of the most remarkable coalitions that I've seen in the environmental movement or anywhere really. And they're having a lobby week in DC and I've decided to go ahead and go and join their lobbying effort. I've been on several calls, but force myself to go back to DC when I break out in hives and get stressed because I'm, the root of, never mind, I'll be nice. So I'm going to go for that and stay for the Poor People's March, which is on June 18th. And Monica's, Barack, who's on our team here, has been part of the plastics work. Monica, you just want to say a couple words about that plastics work and any focus or help you need?
Yeah, I'm just going to briefly summarize what's been going on. There's been a lot happening on this front. First of all, in UNEA, United Nations Environment Assembly, on March 22nd in Nairobi, they had a plastics treaty where 140 countries joined, and they're really trying to make a difference. And the hope is that this resolution will change the plastic business over the next 2 years and will lead to higher compliance costs. And they have a lot of issues that they're addressing in this treaty. So if you are interested, take a look at it because this is really great that this is happening on the global front. And there's a lot happening on the state and local front. Many governments, there have been many bills, bottle bills submitted. They're creating plastic bag bans and straw bans on the local and state front. But the most important legislation that is happening is the EPR legislation, extended producer responsibility legislation. I don't know if you've heard about this, but a few states have adopted this legislation. This law would require producers of plastic to pay the cost of its disposal instead of passing it on to the consumers, which has been the case. And we end up paying for this on our taxes. So this is a very big deal. And in New York, we have an EPR bill going forth, and it was edited by Judith Enck of Beyond Plastics. So this should be the premier bill that the other states will follow. So also on this front, in the federal, I'm trying to go very quickly because I know you have more things you want to discuss. On the federal front, we have the Break Free from Plastic bill, and that also addresses EPR legislation. And as Todd mentioned, there's going to be a people's hearing, and we're going to be lobbying in Washington to get more sponsors. So far, this bill has 140 sponsors, which is wonderful. But again, no Republicans. So we need to find a way to get Republicans to sign on to all these bills. I mean, like Todd said, and I love that you're saying that it's pollution and it's health related, it's bipartisan. We need to reach these Republicans. So anyway, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of recognition now that plastic is a big problem locally, on the state level, federally, and internationally. So we are making progress. A lot of progress has been made in the last 2 years.
Thank you so much for that great update and for following all this and being our point with that coalition. I bounce in and out, but it's comforting knowing that you're there regularly. And I was on a call with the State Department about this resolution for plastics. And I put the link in there to some article on it. It's not I have a PDF I can send to, but when you read that, my heart was just, I was happy and I thought this work was incredible. But at the same time, I was crying on the inside because what I would give to be at a meeting of the Department of State talking about a similar resolution for greenhouse gas pollution. That would be a game changer. So I've started, sharing it through my sources to the White House and through friends who I know have strong connections, saying, why isn't this at least on the table? In the next 3 years, if they can't accomplish anything else, they could get something like that initiated. It might, if it even got to the stage of a resolution like we have, the resolution basically sets forth the parameters and the process for drafting a treaty together. So it really is a founding document. And we should have one of these for fossil fuels for greenhouse gas pollution. And it just makes my heart weep that we don't, and that we're talking about plastics only and not, the bigger problem. So, but it's a great model. And the fact that it exists in the Department, the Secretary of State, the Department of State rather, is orchestrating such a really great initiative to pursue it and for stakeholder input, et cetera, gives some hope that they at least know what they should be doing or how to do what they should be doing. And we just got to we just have to flip this into the conversation at some level. And it can't wait too long, frankly, because, if we lose all of Congress and they wait, another year and then they only have 1 year to work on something like that, that's not enough traction time to get it, underway. So anyway, I'm just pitching that. Is Felice not here yet, Craig?
She's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just killing time waiting for Felice. All right. We're switching to the Senate and Felice has been working on this so hard. And she convinces me every time I talk to her that we got to redouble our efforts, that this is an extremely important, down payment on the future of saving the future, that it's a lot of money, that it's close, that we can still make this happen. And we can't give up, even if we're tired and feel like the odds are against us. This is what advocacy is all about, that we rise up when it seems the worst or the hardest, not when it's easy, but when it's hard. So I'm going to double down and I'm going to make another pitch. We've joined the call-in lines, the tweeter storm, different things that are happening. She's going to tell you more about it. And I'm going to be sending out specific emails on all of this to try to ignite our interest in it. But the main ask is that we're going to re-engage your senators, all of them. We're going to ask to set up meetings again. We can contextualize it saying we're looking for a sponsor for the Earth Bill, but we're really here to talk about the $555 billion. So we're going to work all that out in the next, we'll work that out internally. But for now, Felice is here to explain why this is so important and how we really can make a difference. How's that, Felice? Am I setting it up all right?
It's all good. Thanks, Todd. Nice to see all of you again. It's been a while, and thanks for inviting me back. I just wanted to start out because I think we are at this critical juncture, as Todd noted, and it's a dark day today as we come to terms with the massacre yesterday in Texas. And one of the things that my colleague shared this morning that I want to pass on is that our country is better than our government, than the current representation that we have in Washington. And they're failing us. I just want to be really clear. And they're disappointing. They're letting us down. They're not moving forward with the solutions that we know are right in front of us. And so Todd is right. We're doubling down because We have to keep trying. We can't give up. We can't let it be a foregone conclusion that they're not going to take on the issues that are of absolute critical importance. So I work on climate change. I'm going to talk about climate change today, but there are corollaries to the other most pressing issues that are gripping our country. So I did want to at least start with that because I don't know about you, it's been hard to concentrate today, but I'm here to talk about climate. I'm going to talk about the investments that we need to get over the finish line because there's tremendous public support for them. There's business support for them. But the leadership in Congress needs to hear that this has got to move forward. We talk about internally, we want to be the squeakiest wheel. Our issue, we want to be the squeakiest wheel. The squeakiest wheel will get the oil in the next 8 weeks. Let's be the squeakiest wheel. So I'm going to kind of break it down in fairly sort of manageable chunks because like Todd, I think sometimes, as advocates, we get excited. We have all these tactics we can do. We can go in like 73 directions and then we're overwhelmed and we don't do anything. So I'm going to try to like break it down and make it really manageable because there's a lot to do and the time is short. So just to summarize what we're talking about is, remember the Build Back Better Act that we all worked really hard to get through the House of Representatives? And that was a huge victory. So in that huge bill, there was $555 billion of investments set aside that would really jumpstart or supercharge is maybe a better term, the pivot to clean energy manufacturing, zero emitting vehicles, that includes trucks and buses, transit, cars, and it includes decarbonizing our electric power sector. So those are the main things that are in. There's other things too. There's remember the Climate Conservation Corps. That's basically the Civilian Conservation Corps, but it's modernized. It's really focusing on making our communities resilient to the impacts of climate change. That's in the $555 billion. But in a nutshell, there's $555 billion. That's our high water mark. So we're going to the US Senate. We're going only to the Democrats. I want to be clear. This is a Democratic play. It's called reconciliation. Reconciliation is it's just a 50 vote threshold. And we're going to the Democrats. We're going to leadership. And we're going to the leadership of the White House. And we're saying, hammer out a deal. Get this over the finish line. Pass the climate investments that we need to address climate change and to address this crisis that we have. So what we are asking people to do is look at June and seeing what you're able to do, depending on the capacity that you have and the state where you're operating. So we can do others. I came up with two specific things. One is there are town hall meetings that that many elected representatives are holding right now. So House members are holding them and senators are holding them. We have a tracker. We keep track of every town hall meeting that elected officials are holding for their constituencies. Some are in person, some are virtual. And what we're looking for is individuals who are willing to go to those town halls and ask a question. Raise one of the questions and we have a tracker and we have sample questions that you can ask. So we want to make it really easy. Some are being hosted by veterans groups. Some are being hosted by AARP. Some are being hosted by clean energy associations. And some are being just organized by the elected officials directly. So be on the lookout for those. There's a lot happening this weekend. It's Memorial Day recess. And next week is what's called a Memorial Day recess work period. So everybody is at home. Everyone is going to be doing stuff. Some are going to be at parades. Some are going to be doing cookouts. All politics are local. Get to know where they are. even if you just do a meet and greet, even if you just have a chance to wave at the sidelines of a parade and say, don't forget, pass those climate investments. Climate can't wait. That would be huge. What we want is them to hear, wherever they are, that their constituents are expecting action. So that's around town hall meetings. The second one is a little bit more work, although the first one is work too. The second one is it's a bit of a stretch goal, but I want to challenge each of us. If you can, we have postcards, pre-printed postcards that we can send you. But if you can commit to getting 10 cards signed by 10 constituents, 10 voters, and then go visit the Senate office in your district. Many senators have offices in more than one location in the state. So depending on which state you're in, how far of a drive, if you can get more than 10, that's great. If you can only get 10, that's great too. 10 postcards. If you can collect them and then go visit that office, you can just walk in. Sometimes it feels too big of a lift to try to do a meeting and sit down. That feels like almost a bit more intimidating, but you can just walk by the office. We call them drop-bys, drop by the office. Hi, we're here. If you can bring a friend or a family member or a colleague to join you as well. Deliver the, hi, we're here. We're here to drop off some postcards to reinforce the importance of these investments. We urge you to act on these. We don't have time to waste. Please pass the climate investments that are in front, that are right before you, that were in the House-backed version of Build Back Better. And then if you have a phone, an iPhone or some kind of a phone on your camera, take a picture of your group. Sometimes the staff director there will take a picture too. Take a picture with the sign, the placard that's outside, why that's important. Then send us the picture and we will push that picture out on our social media channels, because we want to make sure that your visit and your hard work is not just like a pin drop, but we want to capture it, and we want to then make sure that on social media it has some visibility. So if you're interested in and have some time, the month of June is the window for that. If anyone's from Alaska, I don't know if we have anyone from Alaska, but Senator Murkowski would be worth paying a visit to. She's the only Republican that I would put on that list. But if you're interested and you want to take on, I know it's a big ask. I can work with Climate Action Campaign to send you a T-shirt. They have these really pretty Climate Can't Wait bright T-shirts. We have pre-printed cards, and we would love your help and support with that. I'll try to find, there's a photo, Todd, I'm not on your distribution list. So there's a photo that a team of people took in Las Vegas, and it really just sort of captures the energy, and they're under the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. So even if you can't make it to the Senate office, but ideally it's by the Senate office with the placard behind you. And the message will be, we just visited Senator Cortez Masto, and we just dropped off postcards reinforcing the importance of this. So anyway, that's what I got today, and happy to take any questions. Thanks, Tom.
Excellent. We have clear direction and clear asks. So I think we just have to, find the wherewithal to get at it. Here's their the main website, but I'm not sure if on the website, Felice, where's the tracker, the town hall tracker, and I get toolkits and things by email, but I just wonder if there's any one place where we could, where we can find all that. But y'all don't need much, to do what you're being, asked to do. We need the link for the swag and the postcards, but you really almost don't need any of that. What you really need is somebody who's going to say, I'll take point in my state to help organize engagement with the senator. And I'm thinking about it in New York State, and obviously we have an important senator here. And I'm also wondering, Felice, so June's the window, but does that feed into July, early July? Like we had Pollution Independence Day last year, right around the 4th of July. So I'm thinking we could repurpose that brand and have it be they were lobby visits, they were supposed to be. Some people went, some people didn't. We're gonna have to keep practicing at this until we get comfortable doing it. And so maybe this is maybe we can use that mantra to organize Senate and House visits, but for the Earth Bill, but Senate visits right now for this. So the question is, how many of you would be interested in that? And to please let me know, particularly if you're in other states, or if you're in New York and you have capacity for organizing. Like, it's really tricky, Felice, like to pressure Schumer is not an easy thing at this stage. We've had events outside his home. His offices were closed for a long time. I don't know if the Senate offices are open in district now.
They are.
They are. All right. Well, that helps a lot. So then maybe that makes it easier. We just organize a group of people to go visit his office here, but you can't just walk into his office in New York City. The security and everybody keeps you out unless you have an appointment. So we'll have to work through all those things. But another
It's gonna really vary. You're absolutely right. So I do appreciate that.
Another thought I had is whether we should try to convene a community online climate forum from New York where we, get him to come and speak, and he is running for office. And it's just the only way to like bring the people to him and actually have direct contact. For something like that, though, I would want some help organizing it. It's a big lift.
So here's, I'm gonna just be really honest.
Yeah,
This is about being a bit scrappy and not, I think if you try to get a forum with Senator Schumer, it's gonna take a really long time to organize. But he is going to, I would be really surprised if he's not somewhere public over the next month in New York. He's probably doing something with Memorial Day.
Where he's going to be, please. We would need, if somebody on your team could help funnel us the calendar of events and locations.
Yeah. So couple thoughts there, Todd, is I think I've shared with each of you. If you're not on the distribution list of your senator, make sure you get that, because sometimes for security reasons, we only get 24 hours notice.
I know.
We will get you the tracker for those where there's more notice for those. And let me see if I can.
All right. Well, if you can help us track them down and find locations and do that sort of behind the scenes insider knowledge or, whatever, then we can think about maybe convening a special meeting of New Yorkers, and y'all could do this in your states, and we'll just bring people together. I'm like, who's ready to bird dog is what we're really being asked to do, which really means having a group of people with some posters on standby. And then when we get notice of an event, that we try to get there. So this is a big lift really to take on this challenge for the next month, but we got time while we're waiting for our bill to be filed. We don't really. So I'm trying to convince myself to do it, if for no other reason than for Felice, who working so hard. So, this is what solidarity is about. And so as you asked, I will do this for New York. I will do it.
Yeah, I think this is why I think it's each person can think through, and I appreciate everyone. There's a lot of like email traffic. So it might be hard for me to capture your emails. So it might be easier if you could just email me directly. The reason why I think having t-shirts and postcards that are branded is because then we can reinforce that there's a coordinated movement around that's climate can't wait. It's a coordinated movement. So, and I know that in some cases it's going to feel like a really big lift, and Senator Schumer is like a really, really big lift. Every senator though can benefit, Democratic senator, with the exception, I know a few of you asked about Senator Collins. Absolutely. If you've got relationships with Senator Collins and stop by. We've also produced some state-specific fact sheets for some states, not all, that captures kind of the top, the top investments that a state will see from this bill, and so we can send that around. I rely on you, Todd, circulate that out to this group since I'm not on your distribution list. But we do have those fact sheets. But my point is more that the most important thing is that senators hear from a few constituents at home in this window, and to not get, it doesn't have to be a huge number, but any number will be really, really important.
And all right, so this is what we have to double down on. Here's a number, by the way, for us to use from our project, from our network, from the Climate Action Campaign, team that Felice is part of. So there's a number just for us to use so we can track our work. So there you go. That's that number. I'll be sending out an email with text. There's some social guidance, Twitter things. But I guess our goal is to try to set up meetings in June or Bird Dog, one of the two. So we just need to know how many states have people willing to work on this so we can sort of have an idea of who's willing to do it. So if you could mull this over and go back to your groups and then send me an email as soon as you can. It just feels more fun when we have a team working on it. If your organization wants to help recruit people for this, generally, let me know as well. So we're going to be focusing on this for the month of June, basically. But it could bleed into July, right? At least what's the real, I hear the only real deadline is sometime in October, but no.
No, reconciliation, the clock runs out. Really, it has to be done by the end of July because the clock runs out by September. So the window is, and somebody asked what the t-shirts say. They say climate can't wait. So I'm happy to, Nancy, I'm happy to if you send me an email, I can also just share with you a mock-up. But if you go onto the actonclimate.org website, I think there's already some pictures there from the big Earth Day rally that many of us were a part of, and you'll see a bunch of people that already have that t-shirt on.
We ordered some of them too.
There is, the Senate is out next week for a work period. Then they come back in June, and then they have I think it's about 4 weeks of work. Then they have July 4th recess, and then they take another week off, and then they're back for another 3 weeks. So the number of work weeks left before they all go home and campaign in August is pretty short. So what we are working, we're really doubling down and doing the in-district drop-bys and meetings. So we're also organizing all of the EDF volunteers and members during the month of June as well. So the month of June is really a very important window. Now, if for some reason, you're absolutely right, Todd, like through the month of June, and then there's going to be July 4th, there's going to be a lot of barbecues. A lot of these members have barbecues if they live in a place that has barbecues. Might not be in Brooklyn. Actually, no, they do have barbecues in Brooklyn, having lived there. So then you've got the July 4th, there's going to be barbecues, there's going to be, a lot of rallies, there's going to be festivals, there's going to be, a lot of activity there. So another opportunity to engage even just informally with your lawmakers.
Okay, I think we understand the game plan. Engage. And there's a link specifically for the swag. And we used to have it, and we sent it out last year, and we were using it for a while, and we got all sorts of stuff. We had pictures. So we might still have some of those t-shirts, Nancy, and some of those cards from before, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I know we just shared a bunch of postcards with a partner who is doing some Earth Day cleanup events, and so we printed some out and sent them out. So I don't know what postcards you have.
We didn't have postcards, but we had t-shirts and placards.
Yeah, that say "Climate Can't Wait."
Mm-hmm. The blue.
Okay.
Yeah. So but we'll see what we don't have and get some more. That's the easy part. Okay, well, everyone,
happy to help support getting them out. I know that you have folks from around the country on this call, so.
Right, but we'll get someone in touch with your team, right? We But let me know who you want to be point with helping us with that. But the form worked really well when we were using it. We just filled it out and things got delivered and they engaged when they had questions. So we just had to find that form again.
Okay, and then I'm gonna see if I can find that. I thought you had the town hall tracker. You don't have that?
I used to, but I haven't looked at it in a very long time.
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. And you know, I guess you could always send it out to the group.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a whole Senate push. So we'll have the tracker, we'll have the tweet storm, we'll have the phone call sections, and then we'll just request to know who's going to do what. And I see some notes that people are working on things or will work on things. All right, well, we don't meet but once a month these days. So our next meeting will be the fourth Wednesday in June. So hopefully by then we'll have some good news. And if not, we'll be in full panic mode and we'll triple down. So let's get at it. This is all good warm up for the bigger fights ahead. And it's just great to be part of a big team and you can feel it. Lots of people working on it. So with that, we'll conclude the formal part of our meeting. Everyone, just invite you to stay on. There's just a couple more things I wanted to mention before you all dart off. One is that it would be nice to find a professional fundraiser to help fundraise for our network. This is what we don't do, is fundraise. So if anyone has any contacts there, and we'll try to figure out a relationship, maybe they get a percentage. I'm not even sure how that world works. But it would be very helpful to have some funding and some staffing as we go into this full court press. And that's pretty much it. Go ahead.
Sorry, Nancy just asked me a really important question I just want to bring to the group. So Nancy asked in terms of the focus for the Senate versus the House. So for postcards and drop-by visits, the priority is the Senate. For town hall meetings, it's both. So the town hall tracker will be both. And the reason is because, every member is up for election and some are in really, really tough races. And so we want to use that town hall meetings as an opportunity to thank them for their leadership and thank them for investing in our communities through the votes that they've already taken. So that's more about thank you. We're here with you. Keep doing what you're doing. And the Senate is go visit them, go drop by their offices, go try to shake their hand or hit their elbow or whatever is COVID appropriate, and say, please finish the work, hammer out a deal and get the climate investments over the finish line.
Great. And when we go to the lobby days for the Plastics Commission, which are happening in the mid of June, I'll be mentioning this and are those meetings. And the Poor People's Campaign is having a huge march on June 18th in DC. And we're very much in touch with them. They're not top lining specific legislative demands, but I'm going to circle back. At least I don't know if we could get some higher level clout into that conversation with them to try to get them to lift up that demand, but they're reluctant to focus too much on specific legislative asks. But anyway, it's a big opportunity and I'll be there in DC. And we're building the solidarity because it's really going to take a broad-based movement to get, the next level of solutions, to get policy that's for the public welfare instead of special interests. And that cuts across the board on policy. So the Poor People's Campaign March is a big opportunity for that. And they have buses from everywhere. It's June 18th. Here's the link to that again. All right, I guess that's everything. Evan, I don't know if you want to say anything from Earth Day. We're so grateful for your partnership and your eagerness to promote the Earth Bill when it gets filed. Do you have any thoughts about what we've been talking about just now or anything you want to share?
Broadly speaking, I just like the well-rounded approach of the work that all of today's speakers have brought forth. I like that there's this focus on engaging folks at all levels of government and really looking for where the greatest impact can be made. As I believe Felice pointed out, there are so many different angles to our work that it's important for us to find focus and unity. And I think that we've started putting together a good framework here today to be able to continue carrying that forward, Todd. So thank you as always. And I always look forward to these meetings. There's always a lot of both inspiration and informative information being shared here to help us carry on our work. And I'm really looking forward to us being able to cross some important thresholds to be able to reach our audience more significantly with the work that we're doing here.
Wonderful, wonderful. And two other thoughts. One real quickly on the EPA focus. There's going to be a huge attention given to the EPA coming up and to the Supreme Court's decision about the EPA's power to regulate pollution. This is going to be the next battleground front. And so several coalitions are interested in this. And I had the idea of having actions at EPA regional offices and perhaps organizing our own regional teams based on the EPA regions, which lay out sort of nicely. So we can mull that over as we go forward. And then the real question is whether collectively we're going to commit to a Pollution Independence Day activity, which could be, these kinds of meetings from June to early July. So please mull that over, and we'll figure out a way to take the pulse on that, because if we are going to do it, obviously we're going to have to get started right away.